Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are going to be talking to Chaniece today, a vegan influencer who lives in Shanghai, who went to school in the US to learn Chinese, came to China, and we're going to be talking about the differences between learning Chinese in America versus China. And she's pretty cool. If you want to follow her, check out her Instagram. Let's check out the video. Hello, and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking to my new friend, Chaniece. We met in Shanghai a couple of weeks ago because of Aiden at a matcha cafe, or maybe it was like a week. I don't know. It was a while ago, not too long ago. And anyways, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you today because you learned Chinese in college and I learned Chinese in college, but we learned Chinese in different countries. And so I thought we could have a cool discussion about what that was like for us.
Sounds good.
Could you just like give a little bit of an introduction about who you are, what you're doing, and then we can go from there?
So I'm Chaniece, and I've been living in China for about technically 12 years, but I say 11 because I've spent most of them in Shanghai. And I majored in Chinese back then, way back when. And I did a very short study abroad stint in Beijing for literally like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I did study Chinese a little bit in China, but still a majority of it was in the States.
Okay.
And when I graduated, I taught for a little bit. That was just to get me to China. That was the easiest way to get a visa. And then I started doing translation. So I worked at a call center and I did translation over the phone. I did social media and like a Bitcoin company. And then I did social media in a blockchain and AI company. Yeah. So I've been I've been around doing a lot of random stuff.
You've been around. Nice. Experience, as they say.
Yeah. Experience.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, cool. So my first question that I usually get when people ask, why the heck did you learn Chinese? So why did you learn Chinese?
So I learned Chinese. Well, when I was in high school, I knew like I had some ABC friends who spoke some Chinese. And so I kind of learned it a little bit just for funsies. Like I was more into Spanish back then. So
me too.
yeah, Spanish was like, I was like, yeah. The only issue for me with Spanish is no offense to anybody who's like from Spanish-speaking country, I was just not very interested in the culture. Like I just didn't care. Like I remember us learning about like flamenco and stuff like that in the history. And I was just like, okay, I don't care. I feel like maybe if I had that interest in the culture,
right,
I might be living in like Mexico or something right now. But I just purely enjoyed studying languages. So Chinese kind of clicked for me a little bit. And then when I went to college, I decided to study Chinese because we had to pick a language. And I went to ratemyprofessor.com. I don't know if anybody knows this website, but you can look up like how easy or difficult it is to learn with that particular professor. So I wanted a professor that would not be too hard. So I remember looking at, I looked at like because I was interested in studying Russian, Arabic, and Mandarin. And yeah, it seemed
so
like
you went for the easy ones.
Yeah. And I got a lot of good feedback that they're like, the Mandarin teachers, specifically one named Vivian Chen, they're like, she's so cool. And, I really like her. Her class is so fun. So went there. And then, I fell in love with like everything about Chinese. Like I really enjoyed studying it. When I learned about the culture, I was like, oh, this is so great. Like learning about like Chinese medicine and feng shui and everything just like really absorbed me into Chinese culture. It was one of those things where I was like, maybe my past life was in China. Like the fact that I clicked to China so quickly. That's what a professor told me. He was like, the fact that you have such an interest in China, maybe you were a Chinese person in a past life. I was like, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah.
That's fun. That's fun. Okay. So did you like major in Chinese, or how does that work in the States? And also what year did you enter college? Because I don't know how that works.
What year did I enter college? 2008. Was that college? Yeah, because I graduated in 2012. Yes, because I would have been 22.
Okay. So you're 1 year before me. I was 2009.
Oh, okay. Yes. So so the way it worked, my college did not have a Chinese major. Like if I could do it all over again, actually I probably still would have chosen the same path, but if I had known I was going to major in Chinese, I would not have picked my school. I would have gone to something like Middlebury or, one of these schools that are known for their Chinese programs.
Okay.
Instead of mine, which is known for like political science majors. Like it's not known for Chinese at all. We didn't even have a Chinese major. We had a Chinese department, but there was no major.
Okay.
So I had to do something called like make a major. So you could create your own major. And basically what that requires
That
is
sounds so American. Make a major. Wow. I love it.
Yeah. Not all schools do this, but mine did, which was nice. So it's like if you're really interested in something and you see that, we have the courses that can allow you to get the credits you need for it to be considered a major, you can do that. And then you can also do self-study sessions with your teachers. So you could have like you would have
like
classes that were specifically one-on-one. So you'd have specific classes just for you and your teacher to help you make up that those credits. So
cool.
So that's what I did, made my major. But because my school is not well known for the courses in Chinese, I was doing really random stuff. Like I studied I think it was like Tibetan religion, Tibetan religions, and then I did some other religious related course that had nothing to do with China. Like it wasn't even Tibet. It was like, I don't know, somewhere in the Middle East, maybe. I have no India. And then I did like Indian history, like colonization of India. Like it was just so random. Okay. Anything that had to do with East Asia, those are all the courses I took.
Right. Of course. Oh, yeah. Wow. I feel like I kind of want to like make my own major one day. That sounds fun, actually.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, if you have something really like, oh, I want to do this, like Russian poetry, you could create your own Russian poetry major.
Oh, okay. So I didn't like, people always ask me about America and college and stuff like that. And I didn't have an American college. I went to China for my college. So like,
jealous.
I like, well, I mean, it was great. We'll get into it. There was good and bad, of course, with both. But like, I mean, yeah, what was like life like learning Chinese in America? Like, how did you practice? Did it feel like, was there like this giant mountain for 2 years and then eventually it got better? Like, how did it work for you? Because like, for me, like if I didn't know how to say like shui, like water, right? Like I wasn't getting water. But like you could just say English, or wherever you are in America, you could say English, Spanish or whatever it is, and someone would be like, okay, here's water. Like there wasn't like a instant, like it's not a survival language for you yet. It was like a academic thing that became survival once you moved to China, of course. So like I'm just curious about like what that was like for you. Because like people that I've noticed in my school that like didn't study, they like had, their quality of life was, so that was like a motivation for me to like have a better life and just enjoy things more. That was like a motivation for me to study, but that probably wasn't a motivation for you in the initial stages, right?
Yeah, for me it was just like grades. So it wasn't about using it at all. I think like and also my professors spoke with me in English, like they taught the class in English. I'm trying to think. It actually, maybe after a few years, they started using Chinese, but it was most like I was used to everything's in English. Like they tell you the homework, it's all in English. And yeah, I remember not needing to study that hard. Like it wasn't that difficult for me. Like I think the number of vocabulary words I was learning every week was maybe like 20. So not even that many vocabulary words. Yeah, it's very like very low. And so I'll never forget, like I had a friend who was from Shanghai, and he was just like, oh yeah, Chinese. And like he started talking to me. I was like, oh my God, what are you saying? I have no idea what you're saying. Like when my professor spoke, yeah, of course I know what they're saying. And they speak very slowly or like very deliberately. But like talking to someone who's just like shooting off and talking to you like you're a native speaker, oh no, I was very far from that. It wasn't until I came to China that connected.
I see. Oh, okay, interesting. What were your classmates like? Where were they from? Like, why did they learn Chinese? Do you have any ideas?
A lot of them just learned it for the major. I mean, not the major, sorry. They learned it for just the credits to get a language credit. And they had also heard that the class, the teacher was like pretty easy. Like
as they say, easy A, right?
Yeah, you can tell because like as you go up, for example, you have like 101, right? 102, 201. Like once you got to like 201, there's like half the number of people. The 101 class is like full, like maybe 20, like 20 students, maybe 30. Our classes were not that big. So maybe like 15, 20 students. That's considered a decent sized class. Once you get to like 201, 202, I remember the highest class I was in, there's like 3 of us in the class. So people are mostly doing it as a requirement. It is not because they are actually interested in studying Chinese. And some people did it because, for example, maybe they're studying law or something where like minoring in Chinese would be useful. But again, those people, very rare. I actually didn't meet those people in my school. This was after I was like doing an abroad program in China for a short period of time. That's when you meet the people who are like actually serious about Chinese. But yeah, they were all Americans just like me. Trying to see. Yeah, I think my school is mostly American. We didn't have that many international students. We had a few, but yeah.
Where did you go to school, by the way?
Davidson. I wore my t-shirt.
Oh,
Davidson.
nice. I wanted to wear I forgot to bring it back. It's in Japan right now at my friend's house.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Will be hard.
Also, like China doesn't sell merch for like the schools, at least my school doesn't. So I had to buy my merch on Taobao.
No. Oh my God. Is that common? Do you know for schools to not have merch?
Yeah, I think it's like a Western, specifically a super American thing to do, but it's so awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to like rep their school, you know?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, like cups with like, Chongqing University or whatever would be common, but I mean, this one says Coca-Cola. But I mean, yeah, when I was going to school, they gave me a blue t-shirt for a performance that I was going to do, because like in China, if you're like learning Chinese and you're, a foreigner, you have to kind of like do these puppet show things to like say that you appreciate the school, because that's just how the culture works. And so I had to do this like, I don't know, like skit online or skit on stage, and I wore it, and then I took it off later that night, and my skin was blue, so I threw it away. Yeah.
Wait, so is this just for foreigners to do, or do like other kids do this as well? Other classmates?
So Chinese people elect to do it, and the foreigners are kind of like, you should do it if you want a scholarship next year. You're like, wait a second. Is
I'll
that
do
like
it for a scholarship? Shoot.
Yeah, I mean,
Give me
I
money.
did it and I got a scholarship, but like being a team player is so important in China, like when you're in school or like in a job, but sometimes I didn't want to be a team player. I mean, after I turned blue, I didn't really want to do it again, to be honest. Yeah,
That's a good reason.
that was and that was interesting. Okay, cool. So like for me, my school, so what was your major again?
Chinese studies, technically.
Okay, Chinese
so
studies.
that it could encompass everything. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, mine
so
was
wasn't
also
just
Chinese.
It wasn't just language, just to make that clear.
Okay, so it was like about okay. Yeah, okay, that brings me that gives me another question. So like just as like a quick brief background for me, my major was also Chinese. I didn't, because when I signed up for the program, I didn't speak any Chinese. I mean, I knew like ni hao and yi and bye bye. Like I knew 3 words basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know what my major was for a while. I just knew that I was learning Chinese because it was all in Chinese. I signed like a contract all about like my studies in Chinese. Didn't know what I was signing. I was like, I hope I'm not giving away my kidney, And I didn't end up giving my kidney away, luckily. But yeah, like so our first 2 years, like I would say the first 6 months was taught in Chinese only. Like they would say like they would speak Chinese, and then all of us would be like, what are you saying? And then she would like say it in English. For like the words. It wasn't necessarily the whole sentence. And then sometimes if you ask the teacher a question, I was like, 老师, what is this called? And she was like, oh, this is a water bottle, this is whatever. And so it depended on the teacher though for us. And then after about 6 months, our books got rid of the pinyin on like all of the Hanzi, the characters. And then like a year after that, our teachers got worse at English. Like the ones that were good at English were like teaching the
Yeah.
easy A students.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And then eventually we started like learning Chinese history in Chinese in like third grade children's books,
Yep. Yep.
which was interesting. And then we went to college classes with Chinese people to learn about China. But after about a week and a half, they took us out of the classes because they were like, "Oh, it turns out that the teacher isn't good at teaching." And I was like, "But what do you mean? It's a university." And they were like, "Yeah, but all they do is just talk and you're not learning anything." And I was like, "Huh, interesting perspective." So we didn't end up continuing doing that. It was very confusing. A lot of my education was very confusing.
Okay.
But I
Mhm.
mean, it was really fun. And then like, I mean, my classes were similar. It was like the first 6 months to a year was like all easy A students. It was all international students that came from overseas, from different, universities, and they were only going to stay for, maximum 1 year. And then after
Mhm.
that, it was the more advanced stuff. And then when I got to advanced level, like I think we have like 7 levels of our school, like of Chinese levels. And when I got to like level 5, and I was like there to like sign up for classes. I was like, "Hey, I'm here. What do I do?" And they were like, "No classes for you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You've taken all the classes." I was like, "But what do you mean I've taken all the classes?" They're like, "Yeah, you finished it." I was like, "But I have like a year and a half left." And they were like, "Oh, do you want to just retake last year's classes?" And I was like, "No, no, what?" I was like, "So I have enough credits to graduate, but I can't graduate?" They were like, "You're the first Western student to ever come to this university to do a degree, so we don't really know." I was like, "What?" Yeah. So
Chaotic.
it was crazy and weird. And I would like call my mom and be like, "Mom, I don't know if I'm really in school. Like, I don't know if this has been fake the whole time, like it was crazy.
Yeah. No, that I would start. I'd be like, "Did you just want my money? Like, what is going on right now?"
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't expensive. It was like, I think I paid like $8,000 for my whole degree. So,
That's another big difference, right? The money.
yeah, exactly. The money. The money. Yeah.
Money.
Like, I mean, that was one of the biggest things for me of why, because in 2007-ish, I met a Chinese guy and I was actually learning Spanish and I was like, maybe I'll, go to school for Spanish. But then I met a guy who was from China and he told me a little bit about China. And I was like, China just sounds so much better. I mean, besides Mexican food being the bomb,
It is
I
the
like
bomb.
was just more interested in China,
Mhm.
like give me an
I agree.
enchilada every day, I'll eat it. But like China, just the culture was cool. And I think because we're from the States, we're both from the South, like there's less Chinese people there.
Mhm.
And we're just like, it's like this magical, wonderful fairy tale land of awesome, crazy things that we've never heard of before. And it was just so intriguing for me. And
Mhm.
so I started learning about China then. And so I, Googled like Chinese American major in, university or whatever, and I couldn't find anything at all. There was only minors. And the whole major thing, I didn't even really know that existed until today, to be honest. So yeah, so that's why I moved to China to go to school because I couldn't, number one, find a school that could, teach me Chinese so I could major in it. I'm also dyslexic, and so I hate like reading and all that stupid like prerequisite stuff. And then the Chinese school said, "Yeah, you'll just learn Chinese. There's no math, there's no science." And I was like, "Wait, I don't have to take math? This is crazy." Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Like no
Interesting.
like stupid 2 years of like useless stuff in my opinion. And they were like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, no, it's just Chinese for 4 years." And I was like, "Okay." And then they were like, it's like they're like, "It's a little bit expensive. It's like $8,000." And I was like, "Oh, per semester?" They're like, "No, for the whole program." And I was
The
like,
whole program.
"Wait, how much what is it expensive?" And they were like, "Well, it's like double the price of the Chinese students." And I was like, "Sign me
Because you're
up."
international. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the same in the
Yeah.
States. Like, I didn't even realize some of these
Right.
schools, they charge so much more if you are international than, or and also if you're from the same state. Like, you go to a college that's from your state, you'll be cheaper for you.
Right. In-state tuition, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, crazy. So when you were learning Chinese, and this could be like in school or whatever, what has been like some of the hard things about it for you?
The hardest thing was definitely transitioning from mostly learning in the US to going to China and doing like a program in China. Because first of all, I applied for one of the like the toughest, according to my professors, like the most intense, toughest programs, despite not having like, you know, not even being the level where if someone just casually talks to me, I can understand them. I'm not even at that level. And here I am like, oh yeah, let's do the toughest one that is available. Because they had some of the easier ones where people basically would kind of just like party and chill because a lot of these programs, at least the ones I did and the ones I knew about, they are just based on like fail or pass. So you don't really have to care about your grade at all. You just have to pass. Yeah. So a lot of people just didn't care, like didn't really study. But like the program I did, you had to study. I mean, I guess you didn't have to, but why would you do that type of program and then not study? You might as well do one of the easier ones. So mine was no English. No, you cannot speak any language that is not your mother tongue. Wait, the opposite.
Oh, wait, it was in Beijing?
Yes.
Was it at Beihua, the Beijing Foreign Language Studies University?
It wasn't at Beihua. It was at like Capital Normal, but it wasn't the school. It was a Middlebury program.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, I forgot what the program was called because there was, I think it was AAC or ACC Hamilton, and then there was the Middlebury ones, and those were the two that I knew about at the time that my professors were like, yeah, these are the two you should apply for. I didn't even apply for anything else. I was like, if I don't go into these two, I didn't even think about that. I was like, I'll get accepted to one of them.
Yeah.
I think I got
luckily China's pretty welcoming with that kind of stuff. So
yeah, well,
and there's
I
not
think
much competition.
There weren't that many students.
For foreigners.
Yeah. But yeah, those programs though, they're like basically US programs, but they're just in China. Okay. So they made it seem like they're very selective, but honestly, I think not that many people were probably applying for the more intense programs. So I think they just accepted anybody who applied. That's my opinion, because there's no way they should have accepted me. Anyway, so when I did the program, why was it hard? Because I could understand nothing. I was in class and I just heard, Chaniece. I'm like, what? I was like, Chaniece? I'm like, oh my God. I started crying in class. I'll never forget. And like, I tried not to cry, tried to like suck it in, but like everyone's just talking casually, like just having a conversation with the teacher in Chinese. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what anybody is saying. Wow. It was so tough. So I would just go in my room and just study for hours and hours and hours and hours because I was the underdog and I had to like move my butt. So I ended up getting like a very special program for me and one other kid who he only went and studied Chinese for one summer. Okay. I had been studying Chinese for 2 years. He studied China during the summer, I think for like a few months, just so he could do this program with his girlfriend because his girlfriend was studying Chinese. And yeah, so we were in a class together and yeah, that was fun. Kind of being in the remedial class, but my Chinese gradually got better. But yeah, that was the hardest part, adjusting from being in the US to being in China and actually having to use proper Chinese. Not just having to speak in English all the time. Yeah.
Right. So interesting. One question I thought of when you were talking was like, what was the environment like in the classrooms, like versus your experience in America and then China? Like, because I've never done, like I said, well, I mean, for the 7th time, I've never done school in the States for college. So like, I don't know like what the atmosphere is like with teachers or relationships. Cause like for me, the relationship was pretty close. Like they gave me their phone number. We didn't have WeChat back then, but they gave me their phone number. Eventually, we got like a QQs or whatever. And like we would like, I went to my teacher's house and she made me chicken wings. Like that was the kind of relationship we could have with our teachers. And even like yesterday, my teacher messaged me. She's like, "Hey, how are you? Are you back in Chongqing?" So I was like, we still talk. It's just kind of like how it works there. But like, I think at least in my impression, the States would be more like, that can happen to certain, if there's a connection, but usually it's, you are a teacher, I am a student, that is all we have? Or like, how was that versus your Beijing experience?
So my situation is a little bit unique because I went to a very small college. Like I think at the time that I went to college, I had there were 1,600 students in my college. And whenever I would say that, people thought I meant 16,000. And I was like, no, 1,600, like probably a little more than the number of students that were in my high school. And so you could have more of those close relationships with teachers. Like I think
great.
I did have a couple of teachers. Yeah, they would invite us over to their house to eat, but that is definitely not normal. That's not the norm. Because if you, especially if you're talking about a massive school where there's like 100 kids in a class or something, that's just not, they're not going to be inviting all of y'all over to their house. Like, but it's like if you have a class with 6 students, you know, why not? You guys, you know, come chill or something at my place. But yeah, but I feel like that relationship was a little easier to establish, even though it like kind of existed. But I feel like it was easier to establish in China. Like I definitely did go to multiple teachers' houses, and like I think once I went to one, like we made pizza, and that was horrific. Yeah. Yeah, she used ketchup as the tomato sauce.
Oh, yeah, because the word fun
like, should I order you guys food?
Does not mean what they think it means.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I had like a lot of fun. Yeah. But I think it was also just because of the small class, like very small, like 2 or 3 people in a class or 4 people in a class. So, but yeah, I definitely feel like if I could pick which one I felt closer to, it'd be my Chinese professors. Because even though it could also be my issue, because being American, kind of having this feeling of bureaucracy and like, sort of like you kind of need to keep a little bit of distance with your teacher because they're like. But wait, now that I think about it, in the States, I did have a professor who I went to his office to ask him a question during office hours, and he like had me watch Fendo with him. I don't know if you know Fendo, but it's like some type of
the TV show.
Yeah, it's so old. Oh my gosh, it's so old. It was old back when I watched it with him, so it's even ridiculous now. And he had me sit there. I felt awkward to leave. We watched the entire 45, and this is before I realized how long Chinese episodes were, because I'm used to like 30 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever,
or 20 minutes with commercials, right?
Yeah, right. And then he's like, I'm like, when is this gonna end? It's like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Like these shows are so long. And I was just sitting there awkwardly, like, heh. But anyway, yeah, that happened. And he would tell me about like some of his problems. Like, I don't know. He seemed like he was kind of lonely, didn't have a lot of friends. I don't know. I was just like, oh God, I'm sorry, I can't be one of your friends, but I sympathize. Yeah, it's a little much. But yeah, he seemed chill, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. The relationships with teachers. Still, I would still say China would be a bit closer.
Okay.
Just the particular program that I did anyway.
Yeah. So what are some things that you just love about learning Chinese? Like, what are some fun things that happen to you? I'll tell you a quick story just so you can get your brain thinking a little bit, because I thought of something. But like for me, because I learned, you never stop learning a language, right? Like that's truly the answer to how do I master a language? You never stop learning it. That's kind of how you do it. You just keep on going and going and going. And for me, like, there are certain words that I learned, and now that, we've both been living in China for a long time now, like there are certain cultural things or words that I've learned that I remember the memory of the words still. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I learned what, like cow stomach was in Chinese, maodu, because I ate it and I was like, what's this texture? And they were like, oh, it's cow stomach. And I was like, and then, the Chinese word for it means like furry stomach, which doesn't sound any better than cow stomach, and I'm like, what? Like, like those kind of fun things I really enjoyed about learning Chinese, of like, you can't learn a language and not learn the culture. And if you learn language, you don't learn the culture, you're really going to have a lot of trouble. And people are going to be like, I don't understand you, but you're speaking my language, And so that's one of the things I really liked about learning Chinese. But like, yeah, what are some things that like kind of you think of when you think about learning Chinese?
Oh, I think about when my Chinese was not that great and people loved having these really long conversations with me. Like I would just meet someone on the side of the street, like maybe like an older gentleman,
Ooh,
And he
yeah.
would pour out his heart to me and tell me his whole story and, why he has the life he has now. I think one guy was living on the street and he was like telling me, and I didn't know what he was saying. And I just remember thinking, like, knowing Chinese to a certain proficiency allows you to have like really interesting conversations with people and like really engage with people in a completely different culture. And another
Yeah.
thing that stood out to me was when I was at Capital Normal, I met people from all over, all from different countries. Like I think one guy,
Yeah.
I don't remember if he was from Russia, but he was from somewhere over there. And I do know that he spoke Russian, and we were like speaking in Chinese, and we didn't use English. Like all these people that I met that I spoke to in that area, they all spoke Chinese. And I was like, this opens me up not just to Chinese people, but like people from other countries who maybe their English is not that good, but they can speak Chinese. And I was like, this is just so cool. Like to this day, I have a friend from Korea who I speak to in Chinese. And I was actually talking to my husband about her. I was like, oh yeah, I was talking to her about, blah, blah, blah. And I was showing him the messages. And he's like, you talk to her in Chinese? He's like, why do you talk to her in Chinese? I was like, because she doesn't know English. He was like, well, she doesn't know English? I was like, no, we can only speak in Chinese. He's like, oh, that's interesting. So I don't know. I just think that part's really cool.
That's a
I
great
like had an
point.
amazing conversation with a taxi driver the other day too, about like
fun.
cultural differences. He was talking about like bar culture, the difference between the US and China, and the difference in sending your kids abroad. And this is just so interesting. I love it. I love the human aspect of it the most.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally agree. I'm on my remember Facebook profile, it says loves to not speak English. And one of my friends was like, that's really pretentious of you to say. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, I was like, I think it's fun because you just get to meet so many different types of people. Yeah, I have a Korean friend I speak English with. I have a friend from Kazakhstan I speak English with, because I don't speak Russian, like we have to speak Chinese together. Like, or not Chinese, not English, but we speak in Chinese. And it's just like your personality is shaped in a different way, and the way that you think about things, and like in my brain, all of my American things are when I was a kid before I was an adult, and then all of my China experiences are as an adult, like becoming an adult and then being an adult. And so like it's just fun. Like I just feel like there's a part of like my head that like gets scratched in a different way that's like really soothing. Like those things, remember those things at the mall where that guy had that thing and he just like put it on your head and like start massaging people, like feeling that, ooh, but like you don't like it, but then you kind of like it. That feeling is like what happens when you speak different languages sometimes, And I totally agree. Yeah. It stimulates something that you didn't expect. I just randomly thought of this, but I learned some Chinese Sign Language a couple years ago. I met this deaf girl on the bus, and she came up to me and she was like, my friend is deaf and she wants to meet a foreigner. She's never met a foreigner. Could she meet you? And I was like, of course. And she's like, but I will be the interpreter. I am deaf, but I can speak and hear a little bit, but she's completely deaf. And I was like, oh yeah, fine. And I've always wanted to learn sign language. I just never had the chance. And I was like, this is my chance. I got to do it. And so like, I wouldn't have been able to learn Chinese Sign Language unless I knew Chinese. So it was just cool that like, this opportunity came up to me too. And I learned about deaf people and deaf culture. And the weirdest thing happened is that like, she was talking and we were eating, we would go to Subway a lot because she liked to try Western food. So we would eat at Subway and like have our little, and she would write on a piece of paper or her phone. And she asked me a question and I was eating and I just responded with my hands because that's how you talk in sign language. And when I did that, as I was chewing, my brain, I felt something that I never felt before. And I was like, whoa, I've never like talked while eating before. Like it was like this new,
communicating while
it was
eating.
weird. Yeah, it was crazy. But anyways,
No,
random
cool.
story, but like that's just a cool thing about like, experiencing new cultures and new things and like, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, no, it is cool. It's like opening up a new level, unlocking a new level to life. You're like, whoa, I can do this too, and I can do that too. And I remember like when I first moved over, or when I did the study abroad program, I remember thinking like, oh man, like what are the people going to be like? Like, am I going to get their humor? Am I going to get their jokes? And then like meeting people who like literally, I remember meeting kids who were like on the theater, who did theater, and they were just like the theater kids in my high school. And I was like,
That's
is
awesome.
so funny that the personalities are exactly the same. They still have their quirkiness. They make similar jokes. And I was just like, that was when it like clicked for me. I was like, wow, people are just people. Like we're all the same. And I feel like as Americans, especially, a lot of us, we don't get out of our bubble. Like a lot of us stay in the States, or like if we travel to other countries, we travel to countries where we don't really need to immerse ourselves in the culture. Like you do,
Right.
there of course are Americans who live here in China and they don't know much about the culture. Their mindset is still very much American. The comments that they make, I'm just like, how do you make these comments when you live in China? And it's like, I know it's because you only absorb American media, American social media, like everything. So your mindset is still shaped by an outside influence despite living here, which I think is crazy.
It's
But
like having your own firewall on your own.
Yeah,
Because you
on your
can't,
brain.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's a
instead of
really good
like,
point. That's a really good point.
it's crazy to me. But I mean, I guess if that's how you live, you don't. But yeah, like just that idea of othering, right? We are different. Whereas when you learn the culture, you learn the language, you're like, oh, we're the same. It's like you have this epiphany. And it sounds so silly to me now saying it when I'm like, oh, well, duh. But it's just like, younger version of me never experiencing really a different culture, people outside of the States. Or I think I like went to Jamaica once. But even then we were like in a resort. So cut off, from
true.
And I remember like my dad making fun of that. He's like, you go to Jamaica and then you just like lock yourselves up in a resort and don't even really interact with the local people or the culture. I thought about that all these years, how important it is to interact more.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. I mean, they call it for a reason, right? Like you get it and you can't get rid of it. Like you just love it. And it's also for the certain kind of person, too, like, I had classmates that, they were basically forced to come overseas to learn Chinese for like 6 months because of their like, your education requirements or whatever. But the ones that really prospered, that like really truly grew, are the ones that just love China, love people, love learning. Had like, I would say, I don't know if a good personality is a good explanation, but like, they were pleasant, they weren't like, whatever other word is not for pleasant.
Unpleasant.
Yeah, unpleasant.
I don't know.
They had pleasant personalities. You'd want to be their friend. Those kind of people. Were the people that like really succeeded in learning Chinese. So like in watching your content and meeting you, I've seen that like you like record yourself doing it and you give people tips. What are some things that you've been thinking about recently about learning Chinese? Like, what are some things that you have found to be helpful for you, or that maybe people have been asking about recently?
Let's see, that people have been asked about recently. Well, first I'll just say something that I found useful is, so also I kind of just started like recording myself because I just started deciding to learn again, maybe starting right after the Chinese New Year. So sometime towards the beginning of this year, I was like, I want to invest in Chinese language because like I've been here for so long. And I posted a video that I feel resonated with a lot of people as you get to this point in your journey with Chinese language where you kind of, it plateaus a little bit. You're still learning. I mean, even if I wasn't really actively learning, I would just watch a drama that maybe I'd watched the previous year and I could understand a lot more. And that continued to happen. But in terms of like ability to speak and like say different things, it improves, but I feel like it just gets to a point where you're saying the same things. You're talking to the same people. Like, for example, I enjoy talking about, sometimes philosophical stuff or like, scientific innovations, or, even if I wanted to explain someone how, cryptocurrency works, or, I don't know, something like that, right? I have no, realizing I can't really do that as in depth in Chinese and being like, okay, I have to, I have to learn. Like, you're not just going to be in China and then just have that osmosis into your brain. That's not going to happen. So being intentional about realizing you can't just watch Chinese dramas and become super duper fluent. And I think you see a lot of these like Chinese influencers online, right? Like they talk to people in Chinese and they're like, "Wow, your Chinese is so good." And, you know, they just go to restaurants and eat food, or, you know, they just talk to like ayis and shushus on the street, right? But, and people think like, "Oh, wow, their Chinese must be so good." But yeah, it is good. But I'm just saying they think that they can probably talk about absolutely any situation and speak about anything.
Right.
And it's like, that's actually not the case. Because a lot of us here in China, like, probably based on the work that we have or our friend circle, especially your friend circle, that really limits the type of topics you're going to be talking about.
Right.
So, you know, if they're constantly talking to you about, you know, marriage or kids or something, that's what you're mostly going to know. So the reason I started doing this, like recording me learning language, was to be very transparent about this process as someone who is technically considered fairly fluent or fairly proficient in Chinese, and having people be like, "Wow, I thought you were like basically like native level, like, you know, you can say anything." And I'm like, no. And I think a lot of us are not very open about that, and we need to be, because yeah, I think this is important, because, you know, you see someone and you think, "Wow, I want to be just like that person," which is cool. I like the fact that these videos are influencing more people to learn Chinese, or getting more people to be interested in Chinese. But I feel like, okay, cool. Now we have like all of these videos. Okay, now let's do the videos where we actually talk about the process, how we're learning, you know, how fast or how slow is the process? How realistic is it to do A, B, C, and D? So yeah, me just learning about the systems to learn. And once you get to a certain level, it's very easy. Like, it's very easy to increase your Chinese. It's not that difficult. If the goal is just, I need to learn more specialized vocabulary, I want to talk about these certain topics, you pretty much have like all the basic vocabulary to start expressing yourself. It's just more about, you need the words, and maybe you need some more different structures or grammatical structures to help you say it in a more sophisticated way. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally see that. I think one thing I noticed around, like, amongst the people that I used to like be around, because, like, I mean, COVID kind of changed China for most foreigners. Like, most people either stayed, got burnt, and left, or just left, and then now there's like new foreigners that are coming. But the ones that I knew before, a lot of them only could get to a certain level because a lot of them didn't want to learn characters. Have you met anybody like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because the thing is, I knew a lot of people who they know Chinese from like living in China, but yeah, they don't know any characters. Like, they're still having.
They're like, "Can you order for me?" I was like, "What do you mean order for you?" They're like, "I can't read the menu." I was like, how do you do this by yourself? And she's like, "Well, I just memorize most of the words." And I'm like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
You can do that.
I
you
mean,
can do that. You can memorize and be like, "Oh,
yeah,
that means that. That means water."
Yeah. I mean, that's how I just memorized the word and I could read it. I don't know. That's how reading works. But anyways, like, one of my friends was like, she was like, "I really want to learn Chinese, but I've been learning Chinese for like 6 years, but I never like had the opportunity to go to school to learn it. So like I had to do it by myself, or like do it with tutors." Excuse me. And like, she has like, you know, a couple kids, and her husband's working, and so, you know, she doesn't have all the time in the world to like learn it like I could. And I was like, "Okay, I understand like why you're having frustrations," but I was like, "What is your question?" And she was like, "I feel like I can't improve because like I know like the word, I know the tone, like sh is like shi, fourth tone, but like there are so many sh's out there. It means is, it means like a thing to do, it could mean, you know, all of these different things. But how do I know which one is which?" Well, it's because it's written differently. And she was like,
Fire that tutor. Oh my God, I'm so angry for her. Fire that tutor. 6 years and you can't read characters? You didn't have one tutor yell at you about this? That's the first thing I would do.
I know. I think what it is it's a combination of two bad things about both cultures. American culture of, "Listen, I'm the boss, I'm paying you," like that American culture. And then the Chinese culture of, "You're the boss, I have nothing, I can't say anything." Like, it's like the two bad things combined made a disaster. Yeah. And so, yeah, I know a lot of people like that. And they were like, I mean, I've learned too much. Like I can't start learning how to read now. And I was like, well, you can. You totally can.
You literally can.
Yeah, I was like, you really, you can do it. I mean, I used to live in Japan during COVID, and the motivation to not learn how to say or write all of the Chinese characters that are in Japanese was there because I already knew them, but I didn't like have to like really try too much. And so I had to force myself actively to make sure that I did learn. And so once that happened to me, I felt more empathy for the people that okay, I don't know characters I've been learning for so long. I can just get by. Like I already like how much better is my life going to be? Because you don't know how much better your life's going to be because where you are now, all that you can see, right? Like that's kind of like what's in front of you. You don't see like, the green grass on the other side because all you know is the green grass is in front of you. And the green grass right now is fine. Like you still get the pork at the grocery store, even though you don't know which one is tenderloin, right? Like it's like that's how it works. But that would be like my number one tip for people is learn the characters 100%. Like don't forget those because they're so important. And like, I mean, yeah, like this person like, oh, what's your name? And they'll like write it on their hand or on your hand. And like once you become like Helen Keller fluent in Chinese, where you can like feel the character and know what it is, that's why I feel like you're like real fluent, like
yeah, when you're trying to show the character, you're like, this one is the one with the tree radical. Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess I would also tell people tones. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
your tones.
for sure.
That's another thing. Like I'll never forget being in college. This is when I was in the States and having a friend who's like, he's like you, like, because I was going through my vocabulary words and I was like, oh, I got these tones wrong. And then I put the word in the other pile, even though I know what that word meant. He was like, you do that even when you don't know like you do that when you don't know the tones, even though you know the word. I was like, yeah, because if I don't know the tones, I don't know the word. And he was just he was like mind blown. I was like, how else would I know the word? It's a different, it sounds different. It's a different tone.
Right.
So
yeah,
but
tones for sure.
No, learn those because once you get advanced and you're speaking more fluently and you're messing up tones, like as a beginner, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. As a beginner, it's fine because
everyone expects you to just be crappy, right?
You're not saying anything too complicated. People can probably figure it out. But once you get to a more advanced level, when you mess up tones, people are really gonna be like, "What? I don't understand."
Yeah, because it's kind of like it's like when you talk to someone who speaks really good English, but then all of a sudden they mess up a pronunciation. They're like, "Oh, do you know the shawa?" And you're like, "The shawa," because like you expect them to know the word shower. So you're like, "Well, they didn't mean that."
Yeah, that's what it is.
So like, of course you mean something else. I'm like, "How did you not understand me?" I was like, "Oh, I thought it was a word I didn't know. I thought you were teaching me something." Or like, how am I supposed to know?
Yeah,
totally true. Yeah, when it comes to Chinese, like the tones are important. And I mean, at least for me, like what I realized after learning for a while is like I try not to separate the characters from the pinyin, from the tones, but just like if I look at the word hall, I look at it as the word, like I can see it, in my mind, and I see the character and I learn the word hall, and I don't see it as hal and then HAO and then third tone. It's just hall together. Because like if I separate it too much, I'm like, oh wait, how do you read that one? Oh, it's that one. I assign like it's too confusing for me at least.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, just like learn together. I mean, it's funny. Like people learn a language and they make all these things and they have their own rules or what they do and what they like to do. But like at the end of the day, I think it's like however the natives learned it and how they do it, I feel like is a pretty good method to learn from.
I think so. Yeah. It's how kids learn. You just
How
mimicking. I always tell people mimicking. They're like, how's your Chinese? Like, how's your pronunciation so good? I'm like literally mimicking for hours. Are you going to do that? Are you going to spend hours in your room mimicking? Probably not, but that's what I did because I enjoyed it. And like even kids that I taught, like, in the past who had the best English, oh, they copy everything you say. They love to mimic.
True. Yeah. I mean, when I was a little kid, one of the things that I didn't realize that was going to be helpful for my language learning is I was like that little annoying kid that was like, trying to like mimic my sister's voices so I could get into her password diary, or like pretend to be my mom on the phone,
Diaries.
like,
Oh, you're taking
yeah,
me back.
remember that? Yeah. And so once I got to like learning Chinese, people, they would be like, how do you pronounce that word correctly? And like my classmates would ask me or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. You just like, just say it when the teacher said it. And the teacher asked me like after class one, is learn how to speak Chinese? And I was like, well, from you. She's like, but I didn't teach you the things that you're saying. Like you're saying it more correct. And I was like, oh, I think it's because I'm just like a weird little child, to be honest, on the inside. Because like
You
it's
have
just
to
like you just
channel
learn,
that inner
like I
child.
just learned that like that's how it works. And like I don't know the scientific things of it. It's like I majored in Chinese, but I don't have like a doctorate in linguistics. I just
Yeah.
like I just love Chinese and I speak it. So like I don't know that part of all the words. Like there are certain words that I know in Chinese that I don't know in English when it comes to certain topics because I learned like my major in Chinese. But like
Hmm.
once you say it in English, I'll be like, okay, it's probably this Chinese word, but like even for like phonetics, we took like a phonetics class. And to this day, I'm not sure what the English words are for some of those things. I get it. Because like it's a Chinese thing, right? It's like what do you call a word in English that has one way to be written, but like two or more sounds? Like I don't know what it's called
Oh,
in English.
homophone?
A homophone?
Homophone?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like those kind of words, it's like
Same
those are more
sound, homophone.
complicated.
I think so.
Yeah, homo. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those kind of words, like I don't know what they're called
Yeah,
necessarily.
yeah, no, if you learn it in
Um,
Chinese, like I was learning about like graying of hair and like the production of melatonin. Oh my gosh, I can't even say it. Melanin? Not melatonin.
the graying of
Melanin.
hair.
No. The cells that color your eyes and your hair. Melanin.
Uh,
What makes you have
melanin.
like
Yeah.
brown. Yeah, I was learning
Yeah.
all these terms in Chinese and I was trying to explain it to my husband and I was like, I can only say the Chinese because it's like once you learn it in Chinese and now to like translate it into English, it's like
Mhm.
it involves so much effort
It
when you
does.
could just think of
Yeah.
it. Oh yeah.
Chinese
Okay.
highway. It's like if you get off that exit, you're gonna have to turn around for a long time. Like just like keep going. I get that.
Yeah. It's like that's a translation skill. That's a translation skill.
Mm,
So because I learned that
mm.
when I did translation, you have to like be quick with going back and forth, but it's like
Okay.
if you're in a specific sector, you get used to it. Whereas
Okay.
if you
That makes sense.
switch to something else that you don't know anything about, it's much harder. Like even going from Chinese to
Mm.
English, people are like, you're a fake American. Like, how do you know you don't know the English for this? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I think what the other day someone wanted in Chinese, like how to say follow your destiny or something. I still don't know the proper way. I was like, follow your destiny. Oh, maybe follow your heart. I was like, I don't know, man. I
Yeah,
don't
you're
know
like
how
I'm
we
thinking
say
about
it.
I'm thinking about the like what did Disney Channel tell me a long time ago? Whatever that one is.
Right. Yeah. So I use ChatGPT
Mm.
now. I'm like, how do you say this in English? These are the words I'm thinking of, but
Oh,
this sounds wrong. Yeah.
that's a good point. I should use ChatGPT.
Yeah. Use it for everything. It can become your second brain.
Wow.
Make you more you're thinking more efficient.
That's true. That's true. Well, thank you. I think that's good. I appreciate you coming and talking to me today about your learning Chinese. And yeah, do you want to give people like where they can find you and how they can follow you and learn about your journey?
Sure. Yeah, my journey, I'm mostly posting it on This is Chaniece on Instagram. Might post on TikTok, maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
just
don't have
just
TikTok,
Instagram.
but
Just come to Instagram. Yeah. Just
Instagram.
come to
Awesome. Do you
Instagram
have a
to find
YouTube
me.
channel or just you just do Instagram?
I do have a YouTube channel. You can follow that too if you want to see maybe see me post a video once every 6 months or something. Yeah, go to my YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. And I will see you later. I'll stop the recording.
Yeah.
Wait, click stop recording.